Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Bikini and the Brain podcast. My name is Ashley Kaltwasser, and here to my left is a man that they call Adam Bow. Adam Bonilla, Team Elite Physique.com.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Happy Monday after
Happy
the
Monday.
Arnold.
Happy. It wasn't it like a leap day or something too. Happy
Oh,
post
was
leap
it?
day.
Oh, that's right. Because of February 29th. I think
Yeah.
there was a February 29th. You're right.
So yeah, but yeah, just like you said, the Arnold just went down, and I got the FOMO bad. Not gonna lie, I was sitting there all salty. What if I was there? It was hard to watch, but I kept occupied, so that's good. I stayed home here in Vegas, got in some good lifts, so made progress in that.
Yeah. You know what I have to do with to say? They ran the Arnold really smooth, for the amateurs as well. And I will let you guys know out there was a lot of girls that missed their class in bikini. Yeah, I had an athlete miss her class coming all the way from California to there because they were running it smooth and efficiently. They were off. Bikini was off stage by like 9 o'clock, and the girls they thought it wasn't just her. There was a lot of them, not a lot, but there's a few of them that thought, they had enough time to do their hair and their makeup, even though it said be backstage at 8. Everyone's like, oh, we won't be on until 11 type of thing. And yeah, when I say be there at 8, I'm just letting you guys know, sometimes you got to be there at 8, sometimes.
Oh, all the time when they say be there, you better be there. The show waits for no one. The show wouldn't wait for you, for me, or an amateur competitor. Waits for no one.
Yeah. So just a warning, girls out there, the promoters, the show's going to go how the show's going to go. And sometimes it's going to go a little faster than others. So if you're having your hair and your makeup planned at 9 when the show starts at 8, you're taking a little bit of a risk there, banking on it that it's going to be at 11. So yeah, crazy, huh? Crazy. So unfortunate, such a whole prep and travel and all that.
It does suck too, because sometimes it isn't even the athlete's fault necessarily, but if it's like they get a makeup time slot that isn't ideal, right? Usually that happens with a makeup artist that isn't the sponsored makeup artist of the event, because usually they have a behind the scenes like idea of how the show is going, how fast. But yeah, so if you're able, this is just another, hey, if you're able to do your own hair and makeup, shoot, I would just do that. That's what I do. Yeah. I'm not gonna be late. I have nightmares about being late for my class. They're obnoxiously early every time. Obnoxiously early.
Yeah, and you get the best mirror though too. You always get like a mirror and best seat in the house,
Exactly.
Yeah. So with the Arnold just passing, we are going to go into the trends. Trends of bikini. Did we see anything different in bikini this year than we've seen in previous years? There's 2 shows a year that essentially like set a standard for the year, and that is going to be the Olympia and the Arnold. And sometimes you'll see a little bit of different things. You'll see some different posing, some different looks, some more muscle, less muscle, more body fat, less body fat, etc. And we're going to go into that and say, okay, did we see anything different? What are the trends based on the Olympia and the Arnold? What are the trends for bikini 2024?
Yeah. And I would say too, ultimately the Olympia is the standard, because there was quite a bit of us from the top missing from the Arnold. So it's not going to give you the best idea, but it does give you a good idea, right? So bikini is always evolving, right? Definitely not the same bikini that I got into 10 years or so ago. It's evolving every single year, which is why you need to stay current on your shows, your posing, everything. Which another little reminder, if you're looking at a posing tutorial from 2 years ago, you should probably find a more current one. We definitely need to update ours. But everything's changing every year. So little by little, if you're out of the loop for like 6 months, it's like, whoa, what happened here?
Yeah. And it just happens. Like 6 months. And that's what I always say too. Make sure you're working with the right posing coaches too. Yeah. That's really important. Someone who's staying current. I've had a lot of kind of weird scenarios where I'll have a girl come into posing class and do her posing routine, and it'll be like a 2020 posing or a 2019 like posing. And I'm like, who's your posing coach? I'm like, oh, it's a figure pro who's not active anymore. And they're kind of just repeating the same type of posing. So just make sure that whoever your posing coach is too, that they're staying current, because it changes really fast. Really fast. Really so just all of a sudden one day, everything's different,
Exactly. Even little things that you might not notice off the bat, but the more you look at it, the more you study it, you're like, oh, all right, things are different, which I think is the first thing to get into the posing trends of 2024. So, going off of what we saw last weekend and even towards the end of last year, I got to say, these routines have gotten much classier and more elegant. I think for a few years there, we're seeing a little. I used to always like get irritated when I saw like girls doing the butt swipe or the thing where they run their fingers up their torso as they're getting in their front pose. I'm like, oh no, cringe, cringe, cringe. Let's not do that. But that's fading away. I don't think I've seen anyone do that anymore.
Yeah.
That used to be a thing, man. That used to be a
It was
thing.
getting a little crazy for a while.
I was like, please stop. But thankfully, at the seminars, the head judges are definitely calling it out. They're like, yeah, this thing you're doing, we don't want to see that.
Yeah.
So it's gotten to enough people, I think, that people are just not doing anymore, thank goodness. But yeah, a lot of elegant and classy routines. I would say they've gotten a little shorter too,
Yeah.
It's more
100%.
people are sticking to the poses that look best on them and not just trying to hit 5 different poses that they saw another competitor do. They're sticking to the basics, they're taking their time with it, and I'm seeing like a lot more like arm movement too in the routines.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think there's more it's a lot faster. I'm seeing like the average routines are being less than like 50-ish seconds, 55 seconds or less, and before where it was like a minute and 10, you're getting some that were like all the way up to like a minute and 30 in some of these crazy routines, but they're faster to the point, very flowy. I like the slowness of the walking. As you remember before, it was a majority of people were going a lot faster, but everyone's kind of slowed things down in terms of like the walking, but they've sped things up in terms of the actual things they're doing in the actual routine. So they're not getting as much walkbacks, as much holding a pose at the end. You're getting just the, we're going to turn front, back. I'm going to get it done and make it pretty, take my time, and then get out of there. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember in years past, people just is almost like they thought they got judged on how long the routine was or something. Cause it was like, oh my gosh, how many times he's going to walk back and forth and hit the same pose. It was almost like painful to watch, but it's definitely gotten more to the point lately. Very elegant, very classy, very clean too.
Yeah.
Very, very clean. And I would say nothing's like overly sexual either, which is nice to see. And bringing the classy routines, like I said. So I thought everyone like definitely upgraded their routines. Everyone's really good from what I saw last weekend.
Yeah,
really
for sure. Really good routines. Yeah, I was really happy with it. I think everything was very it was all modern and it was up to date, and there wasn't anyone that was really off. Of course, it shouldn't be too many people that were off. I saw a couple things. I saw a couple elbows that were flared a little too wide. I saw a couple hand positions that could have been a little bit better, like in the front pose, and then elbows too wide in the back pose. But all in all, like in terms of everyone being on point, like really close, I think they were there. Yeah. Some adjustments. Usually the people that are in different countries that are a little bit not caught up with like the American posing type of thing. But yeah, little tiny things. So, and going with that, I guess we can even talk about that too. One of the things that over the last couple of years has really evolved and changed has been like the elbow position in the back pose.
Yeah.
It was a wider elbow position a couple years back. You could see that. And there were just a little bit more of a flared elbow, that diamond in between your that diamond gap you have, and we call it the diamond, that air gap. We call it a diamond. It's like a diamond shape in that back pose. You're seeing girls really flare their elbows out for a while when we're trying to get more width out of their back. And that was going for a couple years, and now it's a lot more tucked back. You're seeing that a lot more, lot less diamond air in that back pose. So you still see it. There's still a few people that I think need to get a little bit better with it. And then the other thing is that I was talking about was like the hand position that we talked about when. We went to that year where the hands were kind of up quite a bit, where they had their hand up like this in that front pose.
They're not going to know what that is if they're listening.
Oh,
turned up.
Yeah, turn your hand turned up, palm turned up, and then a little bit away from your body, which was like, it kind of creates a little bit more of like a shoulder capping in that front arm, and that's why people were doing it. But then now the arms are pretty much relaxed at your side for the most part, and so yeah, these are the little things that people don't really see. And they can make a big difference in your overall stage presentation, which is a huge part of judging.
Yeah. With bikini posing, unlike any other division, I guess maybe wellness would be similar to the posing, but you should never look like you're actually flexing. You should never look like you're tense. Even if something in your pose is like uncomfortable, which is definitely not comfortable to stand that way for sure, but it should never look like you're putting effort into your posing or your routine or anything like that, nothing should look flexed, nothing should look rigid, nothing should look like you're straining to like hold that pose. Everything should look relaxed. Whether it's relaxing or not is a different story, but it should always look effortless, flowy. Nothing should be like kind of choppy, you know. When we're looking at other divisions like figure and above, you see the more rigid posing, like they want you to kind of flex and open up and things like that. So even if you have to flex a little bit in your posing, depending on who you are and how your muscles are, it should never appear to be that way.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the thing. It's funny. I was talking to someone too about it. You know, I'm like, this isn't bodybuilding, it's bikini, you know, it's a different
Right.
thing. And so, and a lot of people just didn't understand what I meant by that. I'm like, no, it's not bodybuilding. It is bodybuilding in the gym. You're building your body, but it's not bodybuilding in the division. So the criteria is so different. You know, the bodybuilding, it's judged from the neck down. They don't care what your hair, makeup, it looks like, you know, they don't care about that stuff. They care about your physique, and that is it. I mean, even your suit, like it's not like that big of a deal in the suit. You can see bodybuilders with suits all over the place.
Could you imagine like a bodybuilding competitor being told like, yeah, you would have won, but your suit color was just your
Yeah.
trunks were just, yeah, it washed you out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. So everything matters in bikini. And so all these little things like we're talking about, like the posing and the arm flaring and all these little things, your hair, makeup, tan, suit color, the suit material, the cut of the suit, you know, all these little things, complexion, you know, your flow on stage, like these are all judged. So it's not bodybuilding. It is its own criteria. You know, it's its own thing on a bodybuilding stage. It's more like fitness modeling than it is, you know, a bodybuilding division. So all those things come into play. All those things you have to look at. So you know, posing, staying modern with the posing, watching these shows. You know, if you have a chance to watch the Arnold, you know, watch the Arnold and watch their posing and pick up some tips and see what's trending. You know, I think go to more, the more shows you can go to, the better. You know. So
Absolutely. And the more shows you can compete in, usually the better too, because there's no practice like stage practice,
yeah,
especially when it comes to posing. So that is something to note. Let's get into the physiques of 2024
yeah,
and how they're evolving, what the judges want to see, what they don't want to see, things of that nature. Now, the actual like criteria itself has not changed, but you see trends of like what they really try to emphasize in bikini. And this is like I feel like our job is to explain the bikini physique because it can be so confusing. And especially when I say it's not necessarily the most impressive physique that wins sometimes, it's more of the physique that fits the mold of bikini. And I think sometimes we can get mesmerized by muscle or lured in by leanness, but in bikini, that's not necessarily what they want. You know, a lot of times you'll see like, I don't understand why this girl won. She looked so much, she had so much more muscle, her glutes were so much better, or whatever the case may be. And that could be true. Maybe she does have better glutes, maybe she has more muscle, but who fit the actual criteria, the mold of a bikini competitor more? Sometimes it's not that the physique that is most impressive. And you say this, you say no one should be great at one body part in bikini. You should be good from all over.
yep,
You really shouldn't have like a standout body part in bikini. And I think we're starting to see people accept that a little more because for a few years before wellness, especially, a lot of times the glutes were emphasized. Like, you know, especially this day and age with Instagram and everything, we all want big glutes, big round glutes. And a lot of girls want that to be the standout body part, of course. But in bikini, it's still about balance. It isn't about glutes. You know, you definitely need good glutes for sure, but it shouldn't be overpowering to your physique like wellness is. So now that wellness is a division, we see more of that separation. Like, no, bikini, you want to be balanced. In wellness, you're allowed to have more powerful glutes that dominate your physique, right? And even the posing before wellness, I think, was a little more favored to like lower body dominance in bikini. I remember I used to pose in like what 2018 and 19, kind of like sitting on my hips so much, my clavicle would be kind of diagonal to kind of like really like push up my hip, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So it was kind of like the upper body was a little more of an afterthought, but glutes were very, very important, and they still are. But you need to have the complete package. You need to be balanced everywhere in bikini.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how you say it. I always say, good from everywhere, not great from anywhere. Yeah,
Yes.
there you go. So yeah, so if you're one of those girls who's like really training your glutes a lot, which you should, that's going to be one of the primary muscle groups that you should. But if it's at the point where it's overpowering everything else, like we do not want that anymore. And it
Yeah.
needs to be balanced. Yeah.
And I see still a lot of times, even with my own clients, I see everyone has, well, not everyone, a lot of people have the habit of sacrificing their waistline because they're sitting on their hips so much because they want good glutes. And I'm like, whoa, 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 just stand up straight,
Yeah.
chest. I always say chin high, chest to the sky. You should never be like sacrificing any waist width or whatever for bigger glutes. It's going to look better if you stand up straighter usually. Maybe a little weight on your hip, but not to the point where you're pushing your hip out so much that your waistline is shrinking and getting thicker.
Yeah, exactly. And shrinking your torso down and that
Yeah.
too, you know. And a lot of times when people do that in that front pose, it looks more impressive there, but then they get those like wrinkles on their back too because you're leaning so much. Yeah. So
And it looks good from one angle, but keep in mind there's at least 7 judges, especially at a big show. And it might things that look good from one angle only usually isn't the best because you got to realize, yeah, the judge in the middle, the head judge, they're going to see that good angle, but the other judges to the left and right of them, they're going to see some weird like angle of you that's not flattering. So anytime you practice your posing or take photos posing, make sure your pose looks good from the far left, the far right, and everywhere in between, not just the head judge. Because the head judge is important, of course, but they are not the one that the head judge can have like a powerful influence on other judges, but it's not necessarily the make or break. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
no, 100%.
Their score can get thrown out, and it's the top and the bottom scores that get thrown out. So who knows? Maybe they placed you really well, but the other judges saw a weird angle of you that can kind of distort your physique, and maybe you'll get a lower placing because of that. And then another thing I also wanted to point out too, and this is something that we heard like so much last year, and I didn't really even start hearing it from them from last year. When it comes to the physique of a bikini competitor, they're really looking for the hourglass, not the X frame. Okay. Now, the difference is an X frame would be more suited for like figure.
Yeah.
Bikini, we want to keep that hourglass. So you might even have seen some girls pose a little bit differently. That's because maybe they were told that they're too X frame and they need to kind of shrink the width of their shoulders, which with an X frame, typically you'd see wide shoulders going into a small waist, small hips usually. And instead of like having a nice hourglass, it's just like an X.
Yeah.
If you want to elaborate on that and describe it a little better than I did.
I like how you said it once. It was like sharp edges.
Sharp edges would be X frame,
Yeah.
whereas round edges would be hourglass.
Yeah, I like how you said that once because it makes it
angular versus curvy.
Yeah, everything just flows with an hourglass. It just like flows into it versus sharp, sharp. You know, that type of thing. And then the other thing is too is like the hip width, like the natural flow of the hips for the hourglass shape versus the X frame. You'll have a lot different look. So yeah, it really does. Figure versus bikini is a defining difference between that hourglass and that X frame. Like you can see it, you see a lot of the figure girls, they have those great lats and that tiny waistline, but they don't have the widest glutes. They don't have the best glute development because that's not what their division is. They're not supposed to have crazy glute development like we do in bikini and in wellness. And you see that's kind of where the X frame, you can kind of see the differences. Their hips aren't there. Their waistline doesn't taper as much. It's just more about the lats down, glutes, hamstrings. Adductors are even a little bit more there, which we don't want in bikini. We don't want those adductors. So so just a lot of different things. And I like how that division really defines those two. There's no like blurred lines between those two,
Right. Yeah. So I think that's important to realize because I think in the past, a lot of people thought that like, oh, it's great to have like a very wide clavicle. And now as we're hearing, it's not the benefit in bikini. In fact, If you have too wide of a clavicle base, they'll tell you probably like make sure you angle your body a little differently, which there are some X-framed girls that do well. So
Yep.
they're managing. It's just they have to pose a little differently. We all have pluses and minuses. So if somebody doesn't fit the exact true bikini mold, they just kind of have to outpose that and hide their flaws and accentuate their pluses, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then you'll see that with someone with a really wide clavicle base, how Ashley was saying, they won't be fully like open to the front. They'll have their shoulders just back just a hair, tilting that back shoulder back to kind of narrow up their shoulder base just a tiny bit. So it's going to be, as Ashley said, different for every girl. How Ashley was saying, everyone has their pluses and minuses. You really should just go down to a like a posing seminar somewhere and get some advice, or a posing coach somewhere, get some advice. And then after you do a show, get that feedback from the judges, talk to them about what you need to do with your posing, with your clavicle base, whatever that may be. And then they can kind of guide you. And then, these things take time. It takes a few shows to really get the hang of it. So, and figure out where you're going to be best at. So
Absolutely. Now, as far as like conditioning is concerned, we've seen they're making it pretty clear that they don't want the bikini competitors to be overly lean. So, what are some telltale signs that a bikini competitor is too lean?
So I think there's going to be a couple. This is hard because there's some one-offs, right? You get some one-off girls that are really lean and they do really well, And so some girls just naturally just look better leaner. You can see some even at the Arnold. There was a couple girls that were really lean, but that's just how the judges like them. Now, how and why are they doing that way? Well, when they get lean, they don't get grainy. They still keep their lines looking really good when they're that lean. So as long as they're getting lean to the point where they're not seeing etching of the tie-ins. So you're not seeing, so the etching tie-in means like, instead of it being like a full complete tie-in where you could see the whole bottom with a real sharp edge, you're just seeing the full tie-in, but you're not getting that bottom part where it fully connects. There's still a little bit of body fat there where it's just soft enough. But you're still seeing a good tie-in, right? Now, some girls might go a little farther than that and do well. That's just specific to that girl. And she doesn't look grainy when she does that. So it's going to be the differences of, they want you to be as full and round as you can be without losing those lines, especially that tie-in line, which is kind of like that's the last one to come in. So that's why I mentioned that one, because a lot of girls can get lean in the waist and then not get lean in the tie-in. That tie-in is like that kind of defining thing that comes in at the very end. So don't get to that point where it's etching of the tie-in. Get to that point where you're still keeping some body fat there, and then they want you really round and full at the end. So maybe a little bit softer than we've seen on some of the girls in the past, for most, but not for all. So yeah, you're seeing a little bit softer, rounder girl. So it's not necessarily a lot more muscle, but they're filled out muscles. So carb filled, maybe a tiny bit softer. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It tends to be that like you sometimes almost in a way it's better to err on the side of being too soft than too lean
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, but I wouldn't necessarily give that advice to an amateur competitor, because in the amateur there's much bigger gaps between level of talent at a local show, right? Whereas something like the Arnold Olympia, everyone's closer together in like everyone's good, right? If you're a pro, if especially at the Arnold, especially at the Olympia, everyone's good, right? So you can definitely get marked down big time if you're too lean, and I have before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all depending on your body, because just like you said, some girls look better a little leaner, some don't. I think I look better a little bit leaner. That's why you don't see me like this. I'm definitely not the softest one out there. I try not to be the leanest one either. I like to be somewhat in the middle, maybe on erring on the side of a little bit leaner than most. But I still, I can't pull off the soft look like some other girls. I wish I could. I think the more you can pull that off, actually, the better it is.
Yeah.
And it's an advantage. A lot of people think when I say that it's like a bad thing, but no, in bikini, this the more softness you can get away with keeping everything together, having those nice tie-ins and still keeping your shape, that's an advantage.
Yeah.
That is a big advantage to you.
Especially, yeah, you could do more preps that way
You
without
can do
having to
more
get, yeah.
preps, and it just I think what the judges are looking for is that, like, a softer hourglass shape. So, that's an advantage. It's definitely not not a bad thing. I
For
wish
sure.
I wish I can get away with being soft.
Yeah,
I
it's a
can't
good
though.
look, and everyone has, everyone has their look, and that's one of the great things about bikini is it's not super limiting like other divisions are, because
Yeah.
you can it'll fit all frames. With wellness, I get a lot of girls that want to do wellness, and I'm like, yeah, you're just not really built that way, to be a
Mhm.
wellness competitor. If your joints are super balanced from upper to lower body, and you just don't naturally have wide hips, you don't naturally have a good muscle belly to the glutes, probably going to be hard for you to compete against these girls that were born that way, that amplified it, by years of hard work, who are born with bigger joints and bigger muscle bellies and wider hips. You're going to be at a pretty big disadvantage as you work your way up when you're going there. But bikini, there's all sorts of body types that do well in bikini. Like there's just so many different body types, from X frames to, yeah, there's going to be the most ideal type, right? But there's just so many that do good. You look at the top 5 and they're just completely different
Yeah.
body types. You don't see that in other divisions where the top 5 look so different. top
Absolutely.
top 5 and pretty much everyone out there, like, oh yeah, they look like, slightly different versions of the exact same thing. It's
Mhm.
so with bikini though, you give a huge variance, which is good. It's good for everyone, so
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. You just got to find what look works best on you and just roll with it. Now, when it comes to muscle, do you think that um, you see any evolution as far as like muscle is concerned?
I think it's kind of stopped now. I think that they're at their max, which is a good thing. I think that they've been at their max for about, I want to say 3 years or so now, and I think they put a real clear definition out there of what bikini is. And I'm really happy that they've done that. Tyler did those videos about, hey, this is bikini. This is too much. This is not enough. This is whatever. Right? He did all those videos. And I think that's really been helpful for everyone out there understanding what it is, and also the judges. Because you got to understand too, like they can only judge off who shows up. So if every girl thinks, oh, they're getting more muscle, what's going to happen? They're going to get to the stage with more muscle. And then what are the judges going to do? Well, they're going to award whoever's there. So of course they're going to award more muscle. So I think they've done a good job with saying, hey, this is the criteria. This is what we're going to award. And I think they've been sticking to it for the most part. I think the thing that's changed has been the conditioning level just a hair, where they are a little softer and a little fuller because of that softness. So the girls do appear a little bit more muscular because they have a little bit more of a leniency on body fat, and body fat equals size.
Yeah.
You're never going to look bigger than when you're in your off season. You always look your biggest. And when you're in season and you're getting ready for a show, you feel tiny, you feel your smallest, and you're like, I got no muscle. but everyone around you is like, man, what have you been doing? You look jacked, right? And so that's kind of how it goes. But so a little bit of a layer of body fat is going to equal size. So it's a benefit if you can be a little bit softer too, because you have that size thing. So yeah, I don't think that there's been much evolution in terms of the muscle building. It's just the conditioning is getting a little softer, so they're able to be a little fuller. When you have fuller, rounder muscles, they will look a little bit bigger. But I think actual skeletal tissue of muscle is going to be is the same for a little while now.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's there. And but yeah, it's since like 2018, yeah, definitely got bigger to 2021 or so. The tie-ins really became the difference. Getting that tie-in to show up was really the difference. And the tie-in needed more size to get the tie-in to show up. You needed to be leaner to get the tie-in to show up. So you needed both things: the conditioning and the size to get that tie-in to show up. The difference of that tie-in really changed preps. That's the hardest thing. So to get a tie-in to show up on someone is the hardest, longest thing.
Absolutely. So when it comes to the little details, let's talk about how things have been trending here. I would say, like, something I've noticed these last few years, when it comes to tanning, a lot more competitors are doing their own, honestly. Have you been noticing that? I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, Kimber does her own. She's always done her own too. And so I have been seeing that. There's like a couple of teams that will have, like, they just have their girls all do it. I think maybe for the same reason that I had that these girls missed no, that was a makeup thing. They're missing their thing at the Arnold. So I guess yeah, people are doing a lot more of their tans. I've never had an issue with it. I've never had an issue with someone doing their own tan where they look significantly different than everyone else. But it is a little bit of a gamble. You're gambling. If they're using a red tone and you're using something that's like more of an orange tone, you will look a little different. So that's the risk
Just to
that they take.
clarify, from the sponsored tan of the show.
Yes.
Because I don't think that.
Exactly. Yeah. From the sponsored tan.
Yes. So the sponsored tanning company of the show will have a certain tone to their product, whatever product they use. And if you do your own tan, it's going to be maybe a little different if it's a different brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, I mean, for me personally, that is still the one thing I don't feel comfortable doing myself. I can do hair myself, makeup for sure, doing myself. So, I'd rather do my own makeup, but tanning is something I'm not confident with yet. And I will say I have done it before on my own, and it never really turned out quite as good as when I get it sprayed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's something you can tell from the judge's seat, but I could tell like up close. I'm like, this isn't as even, or my abs would be like a little muddy or something like that. So, me personally, I would, you know, I'm very pill person though. So
Yeah.
there's
I was gonna say, I think it favors the melanin folks, you know?
yeah. You already got a
Yeah, I already got
base
I got
coat
like a
going
2-coat
on.
base for you, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm starting from white, from like ghost white. So, the more tanning layers you have to add, the more room for error there is.
I would agree with that.
Because you want to put on enough layers to be as tan as everyone else, but they don't they look not as even the more you put on.
Yeah. They like
They
layer on
can
each other.
yeah, it
Yeah.
starts to get a little sticky and they don't absorb all of them. So, you know, there's ways you can kind of help with that a little bit if you rinse off a coat and then you already have the stain and then do that process a few times. But yeah, even then, honestly, I still don't feel as comfortable. So I know how to do it if I'm in that position and I had to do that before, but I'd much rather just get tanned.
Yeah.
Personally.
No, I'm a fan of people doing their own makeup if they can do it. But I'm not so much a fan of their doing their own tan unless they're very like practiced with it.
Or very dark already.
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, there's probably not going to mess up that bad. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it, make sure you try it a few times first. Like try to at least give it one full run through before it, so you can make sure it works that way. So
and here's a tip too. Depending on, and this is something that I do sometimes, is like depending on the schedule. Like let's say you don't want to you don't want to stay up later than your bedtime to get a spray tan. That was the only availability, or even if you're trying to save money, honestly, just know that the show day top coat is the most important. So if you do your own, you can do your own base coats and just pay for the show day top coat, but obviously make sure that the products are like the same or they work well together, whatever you're doing. But that can save you some money and some time as well if you want to do your own base and just have them do the top coat. That way, at least it can somewhat get you to where you need to be. Whereas, like if you're just doing it on your own, it plays with your mind too, because it's like, well, I see how dark I am here, but where's everyone else? I want to compare my color to everyone else's. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Yeah. So, what other things have you been seeing trend wise? I've seen a couple things in bikinis.
Yeah, bikinis. You know what? Velvet is making a comeback.
That's crazy.
I'm getting a velvet suit made for this year too.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it looks comfortable. It looks comfortable.
Do you think is it actually more comfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I was curious about that. It does look soft and cozy.
Yeah. So velvet's making a comeback, and as far as colors, they're just all over the place these days. You see cool tones, you see red tones. Still don't see yellow too often, orange too often. No white, no black, no gray. The obvious. Very rarely will you see pastels still. So it's like the actual colors themselves have kind of stayed true to what they've always kind of been, because we know those are the colors that work well on stage. But the material, I'm seeing more velvet.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been seeing a little bit of that here and there. And I was like, oh, I was a little caught off guard by it, because usually you'd only see that in like Europe with like European clients.
Yeah. Or it used to be figure competitors used to wear velvet.
Yeah.
I think.
And I just seen a few of them pop up, and I was like, "Oh, is this the thing now?" And it's like all of a sudden, next thing you know, 50% of the class is velvet. So, yeah, I don't know if it's going to take off, but you are seeing a little bit more of it. So,
and as far as shoes, so I use the Shoe Fairy code Ashley K Fit to save. But you know something? Their recent shoe launch, the Olympian 2.0, is actually a 4.5-inch heel instead of a 5. So I think a lot of competitors are gravitating more towards a shorter heel, but it makes up for the actual height itself in the platform area. But I've tried both versions. I've tried the 5-inch and the 4.5, and I gotta say, the 4.5-inch is much more comfortable and easier to walk in, because it's not like shoving your foot into this really unnatural position. It's more of a natural position being in that 4.5-inch. So the whole last year, I was wearing 4.5 inches. even yeah, ever since it released, I've just been wearing 4.5 and it's been so much more comfortable and easier to walk in.
Yeah, and you use the non-strap in?
I could use either.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are so nervous to not wear that ankle strap. They
Yeah.
think it's going to fall off. I run in my heels, I flip in my heels. I do everything. They have not come off. Just because it doesn't have an ankle strap does not mean your foot's going to come out of the shoe. That's not going to happen. But I do like to wear the strapless without the ankle strap for this reason. You know, you're standing backstage for God knows how long. They're going to keep you in the line sometimes. They won't let you go back and sit down. Sometimes you won't have time to do that. And it's nice to kind of get your feet out of the shoe and just crack your toes and stretch them out a little bit. Or if it's cold backstage, sometimes if it's cold backstage, I'll wear my comfy socks and sandals all the way up until I have to get on stage because I don't want my feet to go numb. And sometimes if you're wearing that ankle strap, it takes longer to put on and off because you have to unbuckle, you have to sit down, you have to strap in. So it's not something you can do within like 15 seconds. Whereas a strapless, all you have to do is step out, step in. It's really quick. So for me, I like that. Although I could wear ankle straps too. It's not a it's not more uncomfortable or anything. It's just convenient for me to come in and out of my shoe if it's cold or if I just want to stretch out my toes. So
Yeah, there
that's
you
why I
go.
like to wear them. Did we get any good questions?
You know, we've gotten a couple questions. You know, we'll go into this one here was from Kimura Grip. She said no adductors in bikini. You want to
Yeah.
go into what those are?
So
And
yeah, the adductors is a lot of people, including myself, can get the adductors and abductors confused, but we're talking about ADD ductors, adductors. So that is the little, I guess, half moon inside of your thigh, I guess is the best way to describe it. And no, they don't want to see that. They never did. That's something you'd want to see in figure, but we don't want to see adductors, and we don't want to see overly developed hamstrings where you can see both of the string separations in your back pose. So yeah, the adductors is something you'd see in the back pose, and yeah, that inner thigh half moon. Is that the
yeah,
best way to describe it?
there you go. Yeah. Yeah, so they don't want to see that. All
Yep.
right. Another question, will I be bringing back the show reviews? I will. I will be doing those. I'll be doing one this week actually about the Arnold. Yeah, those are fun. I actually like those because they keep me seeing what's changing, just seeing the trends, and it makes my eyes super, super sharp, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like even just this weekend, like looking at everything, I messaged Sandy. I was like, is this what the problems are here? And she's like, yep, that's the problem. I was like, all right, cool. Like, it was like, you know, before you have to be like, oh, I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder what they're saying. I'm like, oh, I can see it. That's what you fix that, you know? So easy stuff, makes it really great for me. Okay. Oh yeah. Here's a good one too. We got to give props out. Congratulations to Courtney. What a phenomenal pro debut. All the athletes look phenomenal. It was a fun show to watch from Holly Larson, who's a bikini pro. So yeah, good. Congrats to Courtney on that. She had her pro. Isn't that cool? And that's something you guys should all look into too, as you guys doing the Arnold. When you do the Arnold, the next year you get to qualify for doing the Arnold. If you win the Arnold as an amateur in the open division, and you win your pro card there, I should say, you get to go do the Arnold the next year. So it's such an awesome reward. Like what a reward for doing
What a
that
cool
show.
pro debut.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. And also congrats to Phoebe as well.
Yeah. So looking at everything else, anything else? Oh, you know what? So this is a common question too. Thoughts on having a wig for show? So you guys know, yeah, a lot of girls do wear wigs for shows. That is not uncommon at all. You know, hair is part of it, and if your natural hair isn't there, you know, girls will use extensions, they'll use clip-ins, they'll use a wig. You know,
I always say that's a better option than doing something extreme with your hair, meaning like, for example, if you have a certain hair color that you love, let's say it's green, I don't know, you don't want to dye it from a show, just wear a wig, I guess. You know, that's a good option. So you don't have to change your day-to-day look. You can do it without having to disrupt your actual natural hair. So that's an option for you too. You can also use like temporary hair dye too. Like for example, if your hair is too light for stage, use a temporary toner or temporary hair dye. Demi-permanent, I think is what it's called, but it lasts for a few shampoos rather than it being permanent. So I say when it comes to hair, you never really have to do anything to permanently change your hair. Maybe, well, if your hair is obnoxiously long, like to your knees, because I don't know if you can fit that all
Yeah.
into a wig. But even then, you can do little tricks like if your hair is too long and it's your natural hair and you don't want to cut it, you're going to have to curl the crap out of it to shorten it to make sure that you're not covering your butt.
Yeah.
In the back pose.
And we'll go into one more question here too, which is a good and it's relevant. Okay, this question is: do you guys have any information on the seminar this weekend?
Oh,
wanting to come by? Okay, Juliet. Yeah, no, we are having a seminar this weekend, as we talked about, guys. Go to as many seminars as you can.
Saturday, March 9th.
Saturday, March 9th.
Contest Prep Center, Las Vegas, Nevada. 10 a.m. right? 10 a.m.
I have to
start
look
time?
at it again. Is it 10 or 11? I think it's 10. I think it's 10. I should know this. Yeah. I always like look at
I'll
my schedule.
double check
You'll
it.
double check it. I'll talk about
I'll
it.
double check.
Yeah. So this one's gonna be
10 o'clock.
sponsored by Nebbia and Angels. They'll be here. Angels Competition Bikinis. Code
Hey,
Ashley
I'm
K
gonna
Fit.
be here.
And
Yes.
Ashley will be here.
Yes, Code Ashley K Fit.
And
Angel Competition Bikinis. Adam's gonna be here.
I'm gonna be here.
All your favorites. And there's gonna be a glute camp after, so you definitely want to stay for that. So Sam Catlin's going to be putting on a glute camp, but we have a very special guest as well at the seminar.
We do. Who's that special guest?
It's IFBB Pro Judge Lisa Malloy, local to Vegas. She's going to be helping us out with the seminar. So you definitely want to learn from her. She knows her stuff.
Yeah, and it's just there's gonna be a lot of great things. We'll have a beginner posing. We'll have an advanced posing room. We'll go over Q&A.
It's free.
Yeah, it's free. It's it's a good time. So, and it's in Vegas. So come on out to Vegas and have fun the rest of the weekend too.
Yes. 10 a.m. March 9th, Contest Prep Center, Las Vegas.
You don't need to register, just show on up. So anyway, other than that, I guess is that it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a funny one.
You want to answer it? Okay, it made Ashley laugh. I don't know what it is, but it made Ashley laugh. What about teeth for competing? All Americans have picture perfect teeth. How crucial is this?
Do they?
You do have good teeth, Ashley. Ashley earns her preps, but she earns her teeth too. I've never seen anyone as meticulous about their teeth as you.
I'd be flossing all the time and chewing sugar-free gum.
4 or 5 times a day?
More than that. After every meal, I'll floss.
Every meal she flosses. And I've seen her do this for years. Since 2017, I've seen her floss after every meal. It's so crazy. Like even when we're just like we'll be out eating. Like she was like she offers
floss, flossy pick.
Yeah, she'll ask if you want floss. Like people ask if people want gum. Yes, yeah, like flossy. It's not a normal thing to be like offering people floss, but she offers it like it's a pack of gum. Like, oh, you want a piece of gum? She's like, you wanna?
Well,
it's good.
Yeah, gotta keep the. But to be fair though, I will say, I don't know if they would notice from that far away. I think what they would notice isn't necessarily your teeth, but your smile in general.
Yeah.
Like they want to see you happy, of course. And it's human nature. You kind of gravitate towards like friendly, happy. So don't be giving the stink face on stage.
Yes.
Okay. I think everyone has a good smile as long as it looks friendly. And, I think one thing you can do to help that is darker lipstick can always make your teeth look whiter. So
yeah. And you know what? It's funny is I thought about you the other day because I was so like happy to be able to floss with floss again the other day because I was using those picks.
Okay.
Because I could only use my left hand with my arm. And then finally I can get my arm up now to floss. And I was like, oh, this is so nice. It's just so, it's like taking
little dubs.
It's like taking a shower, just like, it's like, it just feels so good.
And we can't assume that they already know you're recovering from bicep surgery. Yeah. So that's why.
Yes. So
for context.
So I guess with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep those questions coming. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of you this weekend. And with that, that's it. See you guys.